on preparation planning. Yeah, I should have planned a bit better with this. I'm just trying to sort out the Instagram live on this phone. Yeah. So how's your day? Where are you guys at currently? How's quarantine treating you wherever you are? Were you here for day one and day two? And if you were here for day one and day two, was there anything that you learned that you thought was useful to you, or is there anything that you would like to learn that um, I missed on those days? So just drop some comments if you've got anything you would like to share from the first day. The first day was about telling your story, and the second day was about um, first day was telling your story. Second day we did the brand sprint, and today we're gonna do researching and planning. If you are joining us on Facebook, you might not see the course guidelines. The course guidelines are being shown on our YouTube, which is KOB, which is KAYOBI. Sorry, youtube.com/KOBGH. So it's youtube.com/KOBGH. So I'm just gonna wait a few seconds and see if we're gonna have anyone join the live stream. If there's anybody joining the live stream, and then we'll kick it off. So yeah, today we're talking about actually I have to apologize for starting the class a bit late today. I had to run around and sort out a few things. But today we're going to talk about how to research and plan for your clothing brand. Doing your research and your planning for your clothing brand. How do you go about it? And all that kind of stuff. If you are joining us on YouTube, you can send us messages in the live stream. Likewise, you can send comments on Facebook, and if you're joining us on Instagram, you can also send comments, questions, anything at all. So we're just gonna get right into it and talk about researching. So we mentioned on the first day that you need to have a good reason why you're starting this. You need to have a story, a narrative, or a purpose for your brand. We spoke about how to position your brand and have a good mission statement for your brand. All those things we spoke about yesterday. But now that you have a good idea as to what your brand is, or what your brand is about, or what you're going to try and achieve with your brand, the next thing you need to start thinking about is your research and your planning. So if you have the course document with you, just scroll down to section 1, research and planning, your target market. The target market, if you have a brand or a clothing brand, or you have a business idea and you're trying to target everyone, it's most likely that your business idea might fail unless the service or product you're providing is a mass consumption product like toilet roll. With something like toilet roll, everybody needs it, so it makes sense. But if you're doing fashion, it does help to have a focus. It does help to have a niche. So who am I selling to? You need to address that question of who you're selling to, and you need to identify your market. Who's this market? Who's your market area? Who's gonna buy this stuff? Who's gonna buy the clothing or the bags or the stuff you're selling? So you really need to start thinking about all that kind of stuff before you. Sorry, I'm just changing the battery on this camera. Yeah, so I would say right now start thinking about who you're gonna sell to. What kind of, we already discussed yesterday what kind of product you wanna sell, why you wanna sell it, how you want to sell it. But now the question is who's gonna buy this kind of product? Because if you don't know who's gonna buy the product, it's not gonna work. You're going to bring out a product that probably nobody needs. So you need to kind of analyze the demography of the kind of person that buys the product that you are looking to bring to the market. If you can't address that question of who's gonna buy this, then you're gonna have a challenge, and that challenge is having too wide an audience for who wants your product, and if it's too wide, you wouldn't be able to advertise adequately to that demography or that group of people. So if you're online now, maybe you could send me a message, stating the kind of person you hope can buy or would be interested in buying your from you, interested in buying from your brand. So think about it. Who would be buying your clothing, right? And how do you identify this market? So you've got like a whole market. So for example, with KO, we fall under maybe African fashion. That's the whole market, right? Or Afropolitan fashion or diasporan fashion. We fall under that whole bracket. And then under that, you have, let's say, African wear, which is more like the African prints. And then under that, you have African streetwear, which is where I see myself, for African inspired T-shirts. So whichever market that you would like to find yourself in, you need to be able to whittle it down to a specific, so that it's easy for you to market, so that it's easy for you to find the right customer, and so that it's easy for the customer to also find you. Because if the customer is going online or going somewhere and the customer is looking for a specific type of product or service, but you haven't specified exactly who your customer is or what you're trying to sell, then the customer is not going to find your product or your service or your clothing useful. So you really need to have an idea of what your general market is. You need to have an idea of what your specific target audience within that market is. So as I mentioned, we fall under African fashion, and within African fashion for KOB, under African fashion we fall under, let's say, African wear, and then within African wear we fall under African streetwear or African t-shirts. So today, as I mentioned earlier, if you're joining us, yeah, hi, Hazy, hi. We're talking about how to find what your market is, who's your market, right? So your market segmentation, and your specific market target. So your market could be plus size women. The specific target would be maybe plus size women who are under 25, and then it could be something like plus size women who are under 25 but are black or African. Then that allows you to really have clarity on who you're designing your product or your service for, and it will allow you to be able to sell those products easily, as opposed to having a very broad market. So that's the idea behind choosing the right market and the right audience for your brand, right? So you need to know your customer inside out, and knowing your customer is really key to growing any brand. The second you lose touch with who your customer is and what makes them tick, then it's really difficult to create something that they would find interesting or something that they would find appealing. So really, you really want to know the type of clothing your customer wears. You need to understand the type of values the customer has. You need to understand the lifestyle the customer lives. You need to understand the food, the places they hang out, what do they do. So if you join in, I would ask you to take a piece of paper and put down who your possible customer is. And this is called creating a persona. You're creating maybe 2 or 3 or 4 types of customers that could possibly be interested in the product or the service that you're offering. Excuse me. Right? So Fidel on Instagram says his customers are 16 to 24 young people with an interest in socially redeeming projects. That's really interesting. So I guess that's a brand that will be driven by a purpose. It's a brand that's being driven by a mission to help young people and help them get out of, I guess, trouble and things of that nature, socially redeeming stuff. So if you are thinking about your brand now, those are some of the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself. Firstly, how old are they? You know. Secondly, where do they hang out? Do they hang out strictly online? Do they hang out at bars? Do they hang out at are they hipsters? Do they hang out at dance studios? What kind of person are you looking to target, and where do they hang out? It's really important to think about that stuff. Then um, you've got things like what are they interested in? What kind of stuff are they interested in? What kind of music do they listen to? What kind of movies do they watch? All these things are little things that can give you clues about the kind of customer that you are looking to target for your clothing brand. Now, things like what are your preferred labels? Currently, what would your ideal customer wear? With a brand like KOB, even though we're an African inspired brand, we know that some of the people who like our brand would not necessarily hi brushstrokes on Instagram. Some people might like our brand, but they might obviously wear foreign brands. They might wear international brands because Africans are quite aspirational, and you can see it even with African celebrities. They majority of them wear foreign brands. They wear the high end brands, or some of them would even wear fake high end brands. But the idea is because they're aspirational. So even though with a brand like KOB, we fit into the African fashion demography, the customers that we're appealing to, we would buy other brands. They would buy Gap. They would buy luxury brands. They would buy mid-range brands. They would buy high street brands. So you need to have an idea as to the customer that you're looking to appeal to, where they shop and why they shop there. What are the current products? What kind of current products are they buying? How often do they shop? You need to know the kind of how often that kind of customer shops. When are they most likely to buy clothes? Are they going to buy clothes according to seasons? Are they going to buy clothes based on events? Do they buy clothes because concerts are coming up? Or do they buy, you need to start thinking about all these things. And the easiest way to do that is to put yourself in the customer's shoes. If you put yourself in the customer's shoes, it gives you an idea as to what makes them tick and what makes them shop and why they would decide to give their money to someone in exchange for a piece of clothing or a bag or a shoe or anything that is any product. It could be art, it could be anything at all. You really need to figure out what drives the customer. Do these customers buy multiple things at the same time? Would they just buy one luxury item once a year and not buy anything? Would they buy 5 t-shirts in a go? Would they only shop at the end of the year because it's almost close to Christmas? Will they shop every week? Will they shop every month? You need to start thinking about all those things and start thinking about how you're going to address these needs for the customer. What media are they interested in? As I mentioned, what do they watch TV? Are they strictly spending all their time on social media? If you appealing, likey, or do they spend their time on WhatsApp, or is it Facebook, or is it YouTube? Giving you an understanding of where you're going to find that customer, where you're going to find that audience, and that also allows you to have a good idea as to where you can meet them and advertise to them. What else do they buy into? Is it that they buy into particular sports? Is it that they buy into natural travel? Oh, how you doing? Petra is one of the first people that really helped me, get my brand out there. Thank you so much for getting the brand to Japan. She's on Instagram. As I was mentioning, really getting a good idea as to what your audience wants. It's important because once you know what drives. So sorry, my gimbal fell. If you have a good idea as to what drives that audience, you would be able to then target them and give them a good service. If you have an idea as to where they shop, how they shop, when they shop, why they shop, you need to have a good idea of that demography, good idea of all that stuff. And hey Jojo, thanks for joining. So having an idea of what culture is associated with them. Some people might buy certain brands because it's connected to hip hop culture. Certain people might buy certain brands because it's connected to African culture. Certain people might buy because it's connected to Caribbean culture. So is it based on the person's lifestyle? Are they a 70s person? Are they a 90s person? Are they a millennials? Are they Generation Z? You need to start thinking about all these things when you're creating your brand, because once you have that clarity of what drives this person, what kind of lifestyle they live, you will be able to create a product or a service that is useful for them, right? So if you're on YouTube, you can see the notes I'm going through. And then what is your disposable income? You need to have a good idea as to the kind of money that your customer has. Is your customer an older customer? When we started KOB, I think it was I thought people near 25 to maybe 35 that were buying. Now I see people maybe near 40s buying. And that shocked me because I thought my customer was always younger. But you do tend to find that customers change. And if you have a brand, you need to have a clarity on the demography and the disposable income of your customer. If you have a good idea, hi, Miguel, I think that's Miguel. If you have a good idea of what your customers' demography is and their disposable income, it allows you to create products and services that can match that disposable income. You might even be surprised that sometimes students in university have more disposable income to spend on fashion or products and services as opposed to maybe a working person. So you need to think through and find out if the product or service you're bringing fits the pocket of the customer that you want or your ideal customer that you're targeting. So once you've gathered all this information, it will really help you to figure out if the service or the product or the fashion brand you're creating has the right audience. How are you going to do this? Through market research. You could take a sample of your product to a fair or a market, or put it online, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, ask for feedback, right? You could create a simple website and get people to sign up into a newsletter and use that to do your market research. Now, this is called customer analysis. You need to analyze the customer and figure out what their needs. So as you mentioned above, what styles are they currently buying? If I'm making t-shirts, are people still buying t-shirts like Jollof is Bay? Do people want slogan t-shirts, or people want t-shirts that are maybe big graphics? If you look at t-shirts over the years, they come in trends. There was a time when Ed Hardy was really, really big. There was a time when the all over print was big. There was a time when people wanted really big graphics, people wanted small graphics. Now, these days, you see a lot of people wanting really, really small graphics. So having an understanding of what people want, what trends that people are following. And it doesn't mean your brand has to be on trend or follow trends, but having that understanding of what people want is really, really important. How much would they pay for the clothing? Would they buy the clothing style that you're creating? Are most common sizes? What are the common sizes? I've always wanted to do menswear, but I was like, okay, what size is the average Ghanaian man? What size is the average African man? If you don't know what size average African man is, then it'll be difficult for you to create the right cut and the right fit, right? Or you're creating jeans for black women. Well, black women are curvier, so you need to start thinking about the cut and the fit and what brands they would wear. So this also goes back to solving a problem. If you're creating a product or a service, you need to understand if you're solving a problem or if you're just going to be just another brand. And nobody wants to be just another brand. So you need to solve a problem. What designers are they buying now? Would they buy my clothing if I sold it online? Would they buy it if I sold it offline? Would they buy it only at events? Start thinking about that. What accessories do they usually wear with the style? So if I'm selling t-shirts, are there any other brands that could complement it? Would somebody who wears KOB prefer to wear African print sneakers, or would they prefer to wear Nikes? So, or specific type of Nikes. So those are the kind of things that you have to start thinking about when you create and doing your customer analysis for your brand. You need to start thinking about the styles and everything. So if you are on YouTube, there's a form that you could easily fill. It's like you ask the question, what are the ages, where do they shop, how much they spend when they shop, how often do they buy, what kind of things do they buy, what's the disposable income, what kind of colors do they buy, how often do they shop. And if you don't have access to an audience, I'd say you could easily go to like a university and go to the hi Kof. Kofi is joining us. Mark is also joined us on Instagram. Like, if you're creating this product or service, this clothing brand, and you don't have a right audience to do your market research, you can simply just go to a university or go where the audience you're looking for congregates. It could be a pub, it could be anywhere, and then just do your market research. It shouldn't take you too long to do the market research for the product, right? Get them to join your mailing list, get them to sign up on WhatsApp, and then get your information from there. Get them to get your research through that, right? Then you have your results. You need to make the results make sense. Hold on, yeah. So once you finish that task, you have a clear idea of the type of people your customers are, right? Secondly, you have an idea of where to promote yourself. If your customers are extremely young, you might not need to put billboards out there. You might just want to do social media. You find out clearly who your competitors are, who are your direct competitors, and you know if it makes sense for you to promote in the same places they promote, or it makes sense for you to not even compete with them, right? And it's always good to create a brand that doesn't actually have competition. If you're a brand that's in your own lane and nobody's doing what you're doing, that's always fantastic because it really sets you apart. If you decided to create African t-shirts from recycled plastic and printed with renewable ink and only sold in high-end shops around the world for $100 and up, right? That's a very, very, very specific niche that you're doing. And the possibility of people doing that might not be high simply because the logistics to create such a product is quite difficult. So start thinking about, who your competition is. Do you actually want to compete with them, or do you simply want to create a whole lane for yourself? If you have your own lane, it's always easier. So the price points, are your price points, do they make sense to the customer? What kind of fit does your customer want? Does your customer want tight fitted stuff, or do they want baggy? And these will come to the trends. Years ago, nobody wanted to wear fitted clothing. Even though in the UK, people were wearing fitted clothing. People in America wanted to wear baggy clothing. But now everybody wants to wear fitted clothing, and the trends will come and they will go. So you need to be aware of that. And what are typical styles that the demography you're looking to cater to is interested in? Competitors, we mentioned that. Identifying your direct competitors. Are they making the same styles as you? Do they have similar styles or designs as you? Are they selling the same market segment? Do they sell products the same type? Are their prices similar to yours? You need to start thinking about all these things before you start actually producing the product. Do they distribute through the same geographical location? We mentioned on the first day that distribution is key. If you're gonna start a brand and you're gonna sell all these through maybe your online channels, it's fine. You make some revenue, but if you can figure out a way to distribute your clothing through other shops, through third parties, or through other websites, you probably make more money than just selling it through your own channel, unless you want to be a mutually exclusive brand. Like Apple. Apple has resellers, but Apple for the longest time only sold through Apple channels. So that's because they wanted to ensure quality control. So you need to think about why you would sell through certain channels and if your competitors sell through those channels. Are your brand ideals the same level as you? Are your brand ideals? Like yesterday we spoke about your brand values. There are three main brand values. Does your competition have the same brand values? Or are your brand values different? And are these unique selling points in your brand values? Is it an advantage or is it a disadvantage to your brand? You need to start thinking about that too. And but you see, competition is important, but I think the most thing you should think about with competition is yourself. Surpassing what your purpose and need for your brand is and surpassing what your plans for your brand is. If you spend all your time on your competition's Instagram page, looking at what they're doing, you might never come up with anything amazing. It's good to understand what your competition does, but it's better to know what you are bringing to the table. It's better to bring something new and something exciting to the market as opposed to worrying about what your competition is going to do, right? If you guys have got any questions, I think I've been speaking so far for just close to 30 minutes. We could, break for a few seconds, and if you've got any questions about um, brand positioning, we're talking today about your market audience, and doing your market research before you start. So if you've got any questions, send us a question. If you want on Facebook, send us on the Facebook Live, Facebook, Instagram. If you've got a question, just send it to us. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I'll wait for the questions. But whilst I'm waiting, I'm just gonna continue going on, so that we're all on the same page. Okay. So sorry, I'm just looking for my slide. All right. So price points. We spoke about price point. Analyzing your direct competitors. I mentioned competition is important, but you are your best competition. Don't stress too much about doing too much competitor analysis, but understand how saturated your market is. Well, like for example, African T-shirt brands. There's not even like I'd say 50 good, strong African T-shirt brands in the world. So the market is not saturated. But then again, you're competing not just with African brands, you compete with every single brand in the world that does a T-shirt, simply because Africans are aspirational and they want to buy brands that are popular, brands that musicians are wearing. So you need to really, really target hardcore how you're gonna really infiltrate that market and get people to buy. So, what does your competition do well? What does your competition not do well? What are they known for? How many designs or styles do they have? How many variations per design? What products do they concentrate on? So if you have an idea of what they're doing, what they're not doing well, it allows you to even steal wisely, because you can look at your competition and say, "Oh, I can do that better." And if you can do it better, then go ahead and do it better, and then get your customers, as opposed to waiting for you know like doing something that's totally new. Yeah, you could bring something that's totally new, and that allows you to be in your own lane. But if you find faults with a product or a service or a clothing brand or a fashion brand, and you think you can do it better, you can add something new, add some new spice, bring that to the table. And if it's good enough, the customer out there will be excited about it, and they will exchange money for the value you bring in. So once you've done that, the next thing you need to start thinking about is planning your year ahead. You already know what your mission statement for your brand is. You already know who your customer is. You already know what your brand values are. You already know who your competition is. The next thing is planning. So put two things. Are you gonna work with the Western or European or American style of working spring, summer, autumn, winter? You're doing the collections, 4 collections, 3 collections, whatever in a year. Or is your brand gonna do fast fashion like what Primark does and try and release new clothing every week? Or is your brand gonna focus on doing just exclusives every quarter? Or is your brand going to focus on doing a new T-shirt a week? You need to figure out type of what your customer will want. If your product is fast fashion, that means your production has to be really, really quick. And if your product is fast fashion, Petra, she said, "Thanks for the advice, Kobna. It's bedtime for me. Take care, boss." Which country are you in now? And thanks for joining. And once again, I appreciate you getting the brand to Japan. Really fantastic. Thank you so much for the support over the years. So, yeah, planning ahead. Are you going to be selling, you know, based on people's season? Do you have the capacity to sell within seasons, or do you have capacity to produce weekly, monthly, or just quarterly? Oh, she's in Abu Dhabi. Fantastic. Bye. So start thinking about that. Start thinking about the seasons. If you really want to do that, then you need to really have a plan for that, right? Now, if you're following us on YouTube, I sent you guys the form, right? And This fashion calendar allows you to figure out when to plan and how to plan, right? So, for an example, August, brands will usually deliver their fashion ranges into the stores. They'll review the best and the worst, they'll analyze predictions, ranges are planned, and then they sell, right? Then September, they chase payments after you've delivered. They chase payments in September. Initial costing, orders are quoted. They quote, the book factory space. Factory space in the sense that you have factories in China, India, Philippines, all these countries. They've got factories. Production Turkey. A lot of Africans are producing in Turkey now. And factories, even in places like Ghana, you've got factories that can do clothing for you. Sister Proverbs, where are you joining us from? Reddit, Delin, where are you joining us from? This is day 3 of the fashion design class. Today we're talking about doing your market research, and we're also talking about planning ahead, how to plan your season, right? So, in September, they book the orders, they book factory space, they do factory meetings, and this could be actually going to the factories in China or in Ghana or wherever, or Lorraine, how you doing, Lorraine? Or you could actually go to the factories in Ghana or China or Turkey, or you could even book these factory meetings online if you trust the factory, if you know the factory is going to do a good job, right? By October, finished designs are finished. They do first samples, ranges are amended, and they start producing, doing quantity checks, right? And between October and December, you're doing your lookbooks. Your lookbook is basically you're gonna get a photographer, a stylist, MUA, makeup artist, all that stuff. Take pictures that represent the clothing, and then so October to November, that's the fall winter season. Some people do a spring summer season, so you need to start thinking about all that kind of stuff, right? By November, you're doing your press and PR. That's by November. You confirm production routes, where the production is coming from. You do your photo shoot, you do your lookbooks. December, initial contact with stores. And then you're doing your ranges already by December. January, you sell into the retailers, you deliver the ranges to the store, they review the best and the worst, they analyze predictions, ranges are planned. Same thing in March, and so on and so forth. So really, you need to understand the seasons and what kind of seasons that you want to go with. I personally, for KOB, I don't go with seasons. I don't do the spring, summer, winter, autumn. Why? Because one, it's expensive, so it's a resource issue. Two, a t-shirt brand, people don't wear t-shirts all year round unless you want to do maybe hoodies and jumpers. I mean, you have other brands that have been able to move away from just being t-shirt brands to do full cut and sew. And cut and sew is basically being able to design something that is made specifically to your customization in the factory, where they cut your pattern, they sew it, and they brand and they do everything specific to your company. So if you're following on YouTube, you realize that we've got descriptions of the fall and winter season, which is August, spring and summer, September, October, what happens in all those seasons. So you have the document, so you're gonna have to read that yourself. But basically, I would say stick to your own seasons, what you're comfortable with, and this will be based on one, how creative you are, how the ideas come. Do you have designs ready? Two, do you have the money to produce? Do you have money to produce? 3, hey, Ennis Simmons, how you doing, bro? Ennis is a photographer in the UK. Known him for a while, so check him out. So if you're gonna go with seasons, you need to speak to someone like Ernest, because Ernest would help you take that idea of the brand and do a photo shoot, and then take that photo shoot to a lookbook. Take that lookbook, give it to the shops. Hope that the shops will be interested in buying your products. That lookbook will be put online onto your website, so you can sell online. So if you're going to go by seasons, you need to understand what resources you need at every given point. You need to understand which PR companies or who's going to help you send out your press releases for your collections. You need to understand which fashion shows are going to be ready during whichever season, so that you're ready for that. So you need to create a plan, and a simple plan that's going to allow you to be ready with your money, with your ideas, with contacts who are going to produce the stuff for you, be it printers to print the t-shirts, companies, factories to cut and sew. You need to have a clear idea so you can plan your season out. Because, for example, if I wanted to do a t-shirt saying stop coronavirus and I wanted to make money from it, which might be a bit weird, I would have started planning about 2 months ago when the disease first came, because I would have realized that people would want to, make a statement about Stop Corona. That means that 2 months ago, I would have had to finish my designs. I would have had to buy my T-shirts in bulk. I would have, if I was printing outside of Ghana, I would have to find a factory that would print for me. If I was printing in Ghana, I would have to make sure I make my screens, make sure I have the right ink, make sure I have the workforce, make sure I have enough money to do marketing afterwards, and then make sure that I have shops that will be interested in, make sure that I have the photographer ready to photograph and do a lookbook, and then make sure that I have maybe a list of customers I can send an email to. That gives you a little bit of an idea as to how you have to structure, because by the time that people are really ready to buy, if I decided to start doing the t-shirts today, it might be too late. So I'll say start thinking about this in advance. Okay, so we've done 37 minutes. We're moving on to product development. If you've got any questions, you can stop me and send me the questions, and then I'll answer as best as I can. Where you guys joining us from, and just send any questions if you've got any questions at all. I'll be glad to answer. So this is day 3 of our class. The class will go on as long as you guys come online, and the whole idea is to help someone start their brand. It doesn't have to be a fashion brand because the principles cut across. And if one of you, by the end of quarantine, actually starts a brand or starts doing something creative, that'll be a blessing for me. I'll be happy. So, product development, right? What is branding? Yesterday we spoke about brand positioning, and branding is not your logo. Branding is not the colors. Branding is not all the stuff. I'd say simply, branding is what other people say about you. Branding is the feeling people have when they see your brand. It's the feeling you have when you think about something like Facebook. Hypno Thieves, you just joined us on Instagram. Where are you joining us from? Welcome to the fashion design class. So your brand is not just simply determined by the color, the shape. It's everything that people connect with you. So it's how your people think about your brand. It's the smell people think if your brand is a food. It's like, what do they smell when they think about your brand? It's how comfortable it is if they come into your showroom. It's everything that comes together to give people a perception as to what you are or who your brand is as a person. So imagine your brand was a human being, right? And what would that brand, dictate? What would that brand dictate if your brand was a human being? So I'm going to show you guys a picture, right? This is a picture from years ago when I was really, really young, right? I'm wearing this was, I think, to Ghana Independence Day. So the guys on Instagram could see that, but the guys on online, you can't really see. I was wearing a t-shirt with an African, Ghana map, red, gold, green, and I was wearing a wristband and stuff. If you saw me, what would you say that brand represented? How I was dressed at that time? What message would I try? What message would I be trying to convey? So think of your brand as a person. How does your brand dress? How does your brand think? How does your brand smell? How does your brand talk? How does your brand act? All these things, that's how human beings perceive your brand, right? So you need to first, most people think of a name, right? And on the first day, I mentioned that if you look at the biggest brands in the world, they have really simple names. They have names like Gucci, Armani, Fendi, Apple, Reebok, Dior, as some African brands, even like Christy Brown, Kobe, does is intentional. If you even count the number of letters that these brands use, they use usually on average 6 letters for the brand name. And it's simply so, number one, it's easier to roll off the tongue. Two, they want it to be something that is memorable. A brand name should be memorable. Three, the brand name should convey something, right? Some of the brand names convey luxury, and that doesn't come just with the name. It comes with time. It comes with everything that's associated with the brand, right? What is a brand experience? If you buy a KOB product, how is it packaged? When you open it, what does it smell like? If you go into a particular shop, what does the shop smell like? How do the shop attendants, how do they connect with you? When I was in the UK, I used to work at Urban Outfitters. I used to work at Topshop, and I mean the difference between Topshop and Urban Outfitters. Topshop was okay, right? But I would say Topshop was very high street and very basic. Urban Outfitters was new at that time to the UK, and it was cooler. It was way cooler. They had DJs in the shop playing. The fixtures in the shop were really really funky. They had art. The workers dressed really really cool, hipsterish. So once you walked into Urban Outfitters, you had a certain feeling, and the experience was way different than what you would have from walking into a Top Shop or Topman shop. So, brand identity. Most people think when people think about brands, they think about the brand identity, which is the visual identity, or the logo, or all the other visual pieces that come together to give a visual picture of your brand, right? So, and then the brand promise. Yesterday, I asked you guys to write 3 things, yeah? The 3 values of your brand. What are the 3 values of your brand? And those 3 values basically make up your brand promise. What is your brand promise? For example, for KOB, when we started, our brand promise is that we'll create fantastic African inspired clothing that's quality, and that's true to the core of why we started, right? So that is our promise. The question is, are you going to be able to follow through on this promise and deliver this promise, right? So those are some of the things you have to start thinking about: the brand name, the brand experience, the brand image, which is symbolic of the whole organization, how people view the brand identity, right? And the brand promise. And you can analyze brands. I'm going to give you guys some homework. Go online, just look at your favorite brands, write them down on paper, ask yourself, what is the brand identity? What is their brand promise? What is their brand experience? Why do I like this brand? How do I feel when I think about this brand? What does this brand smell like? What does this brand feel like? What does this brand sound like? Does brands have sounds? When you put your Windows computer on, you hear dun, dun, or whatever. When you put it off, when you put Apple on, you hear dun, all these like a thing called mnemonics or something. These sounds, brands have sounds, and they pay people a lot of money to come up with these sounds that can help you connect with the emotion of the brand. So the brand is not just a logo. The brand is a feeling. It's an experience. It's a sound. It's a smell. It's a visual. It's a whole thing that you need to create to actually bring out a brand. So creating a logo today and printing a T-shirt and saying you've got a brand, no, you've not got a brand. You've got to do a lot more work. You've got to do a lot of things that would help bring this brand out, right? Okay, so developing your own brand. So key areas to consider: your brand name. It's really really important. The names of the products. Some people might create a shoe and call the shoe different kind of names. So why does Nike give their shoes names? Why do certain people brands like Louis Vuitton put red buttons on the top bottom of their shoes? It's to differentiate themselves. Why would somebody name the T-shirts? So we have Jollof is Day, Make Fufu No War, African inspired dopeness, Africa in motion, for the love of Africa, Make Love Not War, not that one, Make Pound of the Yam is Good for the Soul. These are some of the names of the T-shirts we've made, and you need to do that. Now slogans. What is your brand slogan? For example, KOB, one of our slogans was African roots, global reach. So it's really straightforward to the point. African roots, global reach. You know, all every brand has a name, like a brand slogan that they go with, right? So think about a slogan that makes sense for your brand. Your logo, get somebody to design a logo for you. They're really you can use Fiverr to get somebody to design a logo for you. You can use simple logo websites, or you can draw the logo yourself, learn how to use Adobe Illustrator, and then you create it, vectorize it yourself. Style and quality of your stationery. If the stationery is like the bags that you put your stuff in, the packaging, all that stuff, you need to start thinking about it. Product pricing and packaging, you need to start thinking about how your brand is priced and the packaging. Where are you going to advertise your brand? Does your brand need to be in certain areas? Does your brand need to be on certain websites? Does your brand need to be on certain social media? Then your website, creating a good, strong website. I think maybe next week we're going to talk about this digital marketing and websites and things of that nature, because I do that for my digital marketing agency. So we'll go through that, and that'll give you an idea as to how to easily get your company online. How do you want your brand to be viewed? We spoke about that. All that stuff is in the notes. You can just get the notes. Send me a message if you like the notes, if you're not on YouTube or if you've not received the notes yet. And then working with a designer. So you've done all of this, you know what your brand sounds like, you know your brand name, you've chosen your brand name, you've got all this stuff now, you need to design it. Some of you might be designers already, some of you might be artistically inclined. Do you need to know how to draw or design clothing to be a clothing designer? No. There are a lot of clothing designers that don't know how to design or draw. They simply are visionaries and they have good ideas. So what I would say is, if you cannot draw or design, get somebody who can draw or design, or somebody who can translate your ideas onto paper. That's the best way to go about it. I personally taught myself how to do graphic design. I could draw a little bit. I went online, I went to find tutorials, and then I learned from the tutorials, and then I created. It's a steep learning curve, especially if you've never used a program like Illustrator or Photoshop. But these days you have websites like Canva that can help you design way easier, right? So I'd say go on YouTube, find the niche you're looking for. Is it textile printing? Is it screen printing? Is it t-shirt designs? Is it logos? Go online, go to YouTube. The same way I'm creating this class for you, somebody has already created a class that you could easily go online and learn from, right? And if you don't learn the language of graphic designers, if you don't learn the processes, if you don't learn, what you want, and you go to them, they're just going to take your money because you don't know how to communicate what you want. So they're going to charge you for something that shouldn't cost you too much money, right? So once you've figured out how to work with the designer who's going to help you, or you're going to design yourself, you need to be able to protect your brand, intellectual property. For example, with our Make People Know War t-shirt, is our most popular t-shirt, but we've always had people stealing the slogan, which I created in 2008, and printing variations, doing fakes. Even somebody in the art center currently is printing the exact same design, and we're going to get him arrested. So protect your design. In the UK, in America, intellectual property is kind of like automatic, but here in Africa, like Ghana, you have to go and pay the trademark to protect your intellectual property before you could actually take a police officer to arrest the person. So find ways to protect your designs and your ideas. Identify your brand's unique selling point. I think we're gonna probably end. Let me see. How many minutes have we been doing this now? We've done it for 49 minutes. So we'll do a bit of unique selling point. I think we did that yesterday anyway. Identify your unique selling point. What makes your brand special? Well, what is different between you and the competition? What new thing are you bringing to the market? That's just your USP, your unique selling point. So McDonald's was like, okay, I'm gonna do this burger. I'm gonna do it faster. I'm gonna make it affordable. I'm gonna make it convenient. That's the unique selling point, right? Uber says, oh, I'm gonna bring taxis to you, and you don't have to go and hail your taxi yourself. I'm gonna make it convenient for you. I'm gonna put it in the app, and just make it simple. That's the unique selling point. So what is going to be the unique selling point of your product, your service, or your fashion brand? You need to start thinking about that now. Put it down on paper, act on it. Position yourself in the market. Where do you fit within this market? You know, the design process, future trends, and predictions. So I think we're gonna end there for today. Thank you guys for joining. If you've got any questions in the last 10 minutes that we have, just shoot any questions about your brand. It could be a new brand you're starting, it could be something that you already have done before. You know, let me know. Let me know if you've got any questions about your brand so that I can help you answer those questions while I'm here. If I was to charge for this class, I'll charge you an arm and a leg, but this is for free. This is free consultation. So let me know what your needs are. How can I help you bring your dreams to life? How can I help you build this brand and build this dream? So, questions? I think the two people still on Instagram. So, if you got any questions, let me know what your questions are before we end this live. Facebook, any questions? Or YouTube, any questions? Okay. I'm gonna give you guys a minute to think about if you've got any questions. It could be from yesterday, it could be any questions currently. And everyone is silent. Okay, so if you guys haven't got any questions, I'd say sit down, really think about what we've discussed today, put it on paper, put it in somewhere that you can see every day, and start acting upon it. Don't wait. Take the leap of faith now. The world is at a standstill now, and just because the world is at a standstill and you are home, it doesn't mean you shouldn't act on your dreams or act on your purpose or act on your ideas. It's a fantastic time for you to do what you've always dreamt of. Stop waiting. Stop making excuses. Just do it. Stand out there. Do it. Start today. Start today. Everything starts with just one day. Starts with just a little idea. So this is the time for you to really start and do something amazing and bring that dream to life. You know. Once again, thank you guys for joining. If you would like to support us, I'd say share this on Facebook, share this on YouTube to somebody who might need this. Even if this helps one person start their clothing brand or even start any kind of brand or service, then it's a big win for me. So get in touch if you need any help, support. You can do that info@klbclothing.com or send us a message on any of these platforms. And also share. Subscribe to our YouTube, KOBGH, KAOIGH, and God bless you all. Peace.